Welcome to another edition of Huddle Up here on Northwest Access TV. If I'm not mistaken, I believe our 90th or 91st episode. We're close to those three digits. To my left, Nick Mumley, and to my right, sporting a Chicago Cubs jersey. Colorado Rock. The C is the same thing.
Cubs.
It's the same C. Look at it. It's the same C. It's the exact same C as the Cubs.
It's a hockey jersey.
Yeah, who cares? So this is Dustin. We're here to talk about sports. We have a big topic on today because everyone's talking about it. Even athletes that never even went to college are talking about it. We're going to talk about getting paid in the collegiate level.
Oh, yeah.
But first, as always, our show starters. And mine kind of was going to go into Dustin's, but then he decided to change it. Was the Patriots coming up in the draft? We're saying, okay, maybe they'll bump up to give Josh McDaniels. There's all these rumors of like what they're going to do in the draft. It's okay, well, maybe the Patriots are going to let McDaniels choose his quarterback with a future, and they're going to trade up to get that. And all I keep thinking of, there are three quarterbacks in Minnesota that don't have a home right now because none of them are signed. So if they're all used to already being backups, why wouldn't you be able to pay them to be a backup in New England? You can save some money. I think a Teddy Bridgewater would do quite fine in New England as a backup to Tom Brady.
I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's a backup quarterback. I think
currently he is.
I mean, currently he is, but
so is Sam Bradford, and so is technically Case Keenum.
Well, okay, if they're all one of them has to be a starting quarterback.
The rumors are for Minnesota. They're going all in like everyone else is for Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins train. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater would probably be the greatest consolation prize if you miss out on Kirk Cousins maybe ever.
Absolutely.
Because Bridgewater proved that, he has a good ceiling in the year that he led the Vikings to the playoffs along with Adrian Peterson. Then he had that injury. So you have a quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater who I think is still a franchise quarterback, but we have to give him another year being back, right? Yeah. Then you have Sam Bradford, who's proven that he can be your mid-tier franchise quarterback level. He can be a great quarterback if he stays healthy. That's the big thing. Yeah. And then Case Keenum is just the super question mark. So,
the super question mark that took you to the
NFC Championship game. Yeah,
I don't count that as a super question mark.
Mark Sanchez.
I count that as proven.
So you saying Mark Sanchez is proven? Mark Sanchez took just 2 AFC
Okay, yeah. How long ago, Dustin?
But
7 years ago? Stop it.
That's the point I'm making.
It's not a good point. He hasn't done anything since then. At least Case Keenum has just done it. Listen, when Mark Sanchez did bring them to the AFC Championship, yes, he was one of the top quarterbacks of that time, but that was 7-8 years ago. Come on.
Wow.
He was. He did it
Whoa
twice.
there, bud. Whoa there, bud.
Twice.
Whoa there.
I don't think he was a top quarterback of the time. I think the Jets had a really good team.
Yeah, and that's what I think Case Keenum was able to benefit from.
Yeah. He just did it. This wasn't 10 years ago, Case Keenum bringing them to the NFC Championship.
But I'm not giving Case Keenum
to call him the biggest question mark? No.
Out of the three on that roster,
Sam Bradford, in my opinion, bottom of the totem pole.
Sam Bradford broke the NFL record for completion percentage or getting sacked only third place.
Literally
the year before last.
Okay. Yeah,
Sam Bradford, he might be the worst. He might be the worst quarterback out of those three. But
I agree.
I think that at the same time, I think at the same time he is the. He's the most proven.
Technical difficulties with his chair.
I'm at the kids' table right now.
He's by far the most proven out of them, though. So
Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Sam Bradford's the most proven because you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you know what you're going to get.
You're going to get a guy who's between 12 and 20 as far as the quarterback, the top quarterbacks go. He can win you some games. He can play well if you put a team around him.
When you say top 20, it's basically like every quarterback in the league.
12 to 20, he's good. It's just he's hurt. He's hurt too much.
Here.
And then Teddy Bridgewater.
Paul has had enough.
We are having
Can't wait for that new building.
Technical difficulties. Were you able to keep your mic on the entire time?
I was.
That is impressive.
Come on now. I'm a pro.
That's a great way to start the show.
We'll cut that one up for Facebook later.
91 episodes, and that's the first time I've ever seen that happen.
That's the first time I think we've done that. All right, so let's jump it over. We're going to stick with the NFL draft real quick. Let's go to Nick.
Well, yeah, the draft is coming up. Obviously, the combine is also coming up a little bit sooner than the draft.
They call it the Underwear Olympics.
Whatever. No.
Yeah, let's hope there's no wardrobe malfunctions this year, as we've seen in the past couple of years. That was gross, but yeah, I mean, the draft's coming up, and there's a lot of quarterbacks there. I was just wondering what you guys thought about.
I think I read
how
somewhere
that's going to fall.
They said that there's a chance we'll have the most quarterbacks drafted in a very long time in this draft. There will be. They said on average it's 6 to 7 quartbacks are drafted.
Yeah, I mean,
and they were looking at
4 of them in the top 10
to something quarterback, 10 or more quarterbacks could be drafted this year. But I think that's because we are seeing after this year, especially with injuries, the value of whether it's just a backup quarterback or just a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think we're moving into the NFL where you're willing to pay a little more for a backup quarterback because you saw how good having a good backup quarterback can be. It can be the difference between having your season derailed or, hey, even making the Super Bowl and winning
the Super Bowl. Yeah.
I am interested to see how some quarterbacks, Sam Darnold from USC, he's not throwing this weekend.
But who will at his pro day?
He will at his pro day. I'm going to be interested to see, and it's going to make me sound a pessimist, but how do the Browns mess this up? Like, they have 3 or 4 quarterbacks there towards the top that they can take.
The first and 4th pick, right?
Yeah, how do the Browns mess this up?
Which is better than when they were last year. What was last year? First and 10 or
first and 10. They had the 4th pick because the Texans lost to Sean and tanked. Which, hey, if it helps make the Browns better, I'll take that. I'll take that L for the NFL. If it helps give Cleveland fans hope.
Yeah.
But I watch a lot of college football. I don't know why Josh Allen is even considered for a top 10 draft pick. That makes no sense to me.
Because at one time during the offseason, one of the analysts said, I think it was actually Kuiper said
Jr.
Josh Allen's my #1 quarterback, and everyone, wait, what's going on? How's this? Why is that?
He looks like Brock Osweiler.
Oh my God!
If he
Stop it!
No, he's tall and throws. Like that's literally what he
Nobody
looks
ever
like.
looks like him.
No, but Josh Allen.
That's how bad Brock Osweiler was.
But yeah, Josh Allen is like a slight upgrade. I like Josh Rosen though. I really like Rosen out of UCLA. I think he's the best of the quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there.
And I think Lamar Jackson would be my second favorite, even though he's a scrambling quarterback.
Most athletic, I would give it to Lamar Jackson. But I'm very curious to see what. I'm going to forget his name already.
Hugh Jackson?
No, out of Oklahoma.
Baker Mayfield.
What Mayfield's going to do. Everyone's kind of glazing over him, but
Mayfield's a good quarterback.
He played really well in college.
I think Mayfield is one of those guys where if you're from the 15th pick down, you want to draft him, you want to groom him.
Yeah.
If you have a quarterback that's getting towards the end of his run with you guys, maybe
at the Patriots again.
I'm not thinking about the Patriots, but I'm trying to think of some places where some older
Mayfield
quarterbacks are.
I would too. I don't have nothing wrong with Mayfield.
No, Mayfield is a great young quarterback. I don't think he's ready to come.
I think he's got great touch. I think he's got great touch when he throws the ball.
Yeah.
It's something that's kind of like where the Patriots have seen with Brady.
If I'm New Orleans and he's still on the board,
now you're just going with the whole he's same height as Drew Brees.
No,
so
I think Sean Payton can do some really good things with a guy like Baker Mayfield.
I don't think Sean Payton's going to be there long enough for Baker Mayfield to be on the team.
No, he kind of re-secured his job security last year, but he
secured his job security.
I have a really interesting.
The fact of the matter is,
it's really interesting to me to see where these 5 quarterbacks go. These main 5 quarterbacks, because I think 3 of them will be good, 2 of them will be busts. That's how it kind of always goes in the NFL. You have a couple of good quarterbacks out of a class, a couple mid-tier, and then a couple busts. I think I like Rosen, Mayfield, and Jackson. I don't like Darnold or Allen at all.
Yeah, Darnold is one of those guys who had plenty of chances to really prove himself at the collegiate level, and
he's a chucker.
Yeah, he never really showed a whole lot of composure or just ability to be a good quarterback. He never really lived up to his expectations at USC, and USC had a really good team last year. And he went in and just didn't really do a whole lot, and that was similar to his junior year as well. So, I don't see him translating well just because he hasn't shown that he can play up to his potential.
I think because the draft is very quarterback driven, I think this year, because that's what everyone seems to be talking about, I'd be really excited. I'm actually excited to watch the draft. I don't typically watch it too often. Because for me as a Patriots fan, I have nothing to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, for the last 2 years, I think they haven't had a first-round pick anyway. So for me, it's like, why we even watch the first night? I kind of just get the notification on my phone later saying, we have.
I don't even bother to watch the first night. Like last year when the Texans.
Well, I do. I actually like that. But last year's was a crazy draft to watch.
Last year, the Chiefs and the Texans came out of nowhere to pick quarterbacks. Literally nowhere.
And also with the whole mess of Chicago and everything like that. There's just so much going on.
Oh my gosh!
Who actually they announced they're dropping. Glennon.
The draft.
There you go. That's how that works.
Everybody's favorite draft.
$54 million in my pocket.
Getting that Brock money.
Dustin had something he wanted to chat about, too, to begin our show.
Yeah, I witnessed a murder on live TV last night.
You watched a crime, but it wasn't a murder.
I think it was a murder because I don't know. I think Wesley Johnson has yet to be found. I think they're putting him on milk cartons. James Harden
I think he needs workers' comp because that was a push-off. I don't hear what you say.
I don't care if it was a push-off.
If it's a push-off, it's illegal.
Oh, whatever.
Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, James Harden. It's fine. Put the greats in one category, but they all push off.
All right. You can say they all push off.
They all push off.
Okay. They push off. But
So you say you saw a murder last night of Wesley Johnson getting
James
pushed
Harden.
off because he knocked him on the ground.
Pushed off.
You just said he pushed off, and then you said he's not pushed off. Which one is it, Dustin? You got to choose.
It was a double felony. It's all right.
Double felony.
Double felony. Everybody goes.
It's more of a homicide.
I don't even see the push off here.
What do you mean you just see the push? Ready? 1, 2, 3, push.
That's not a push.
Just push them.
That's putting your arm out and having space.
called
That's
a
not a
push.
push off. Okay. You and I have different definitions of a push.
Clearly.
Regardless, James Harden broke the ankles of Wesley Johnson. That wasn't even the best part.
James Harden
for me.
got away with an easy foul.
The best part for me
Offensive
was
foul,
that
no three.
James Harden just stood there.
That was funnier.
For about 2 seconds, and he would have stood there longer if the Clippers' help hadn't actually come, and then he just drains the three.
I think everyone was waiting for them to call a foul, and everyone just kind of standing and staring at each other, and James Harden's like, oh, I'll take the three. Okay, open look.
No, I think James Harden knew what he did because he was staring down Johnson there, and it wasn't a push. Dan Snyder, great comments, Dan. Great TV guys. But it wasn't a push
Dan
off.
Snyder on TV anymore.
It wasn't a push off. It wasn't a push off in my opinion. He had his arm out. He had space. He had the lane.
It's a push off.
But the fact that he stepped
Knocked
back
the guy
and
down.
stared at him. No, he knocked him down by breaking his ankle.
The only thing that James Harden did was commit a foul. That wasn't called. Like many fouls in the NBA,
if you're going to call that,
unless you're playing a JV girls game at BFA, there are no fouls being
called. If
called.
you're going to call that a foul, then I'm just going to give you a high school whistle because you'll call that a foul.
No, I wouldn't call that a foul.
Yeah, you would.
No,
that's what that was.
No, that's like
it was
that's
not
like,
a push.
That's like, hey, buddy.
No, that was what it was. He had
hey,
the air.
Okay, now you're going like this. Now you're chopping me. You're like,
So there's a difference between that and that.
Absolutely, you got open fist or not open fist.
I can see where you're coming from, but for the NBA, that would be a really weak call.
Yeah, really.
You push the guy over.
The
guy
NBA
falls over like that.
For the stuff that they let go in that league, for them to call that would be kind of...
I have seen high school basketball games where they wouldn't call that because that'd be a weak foul. That's not enough of a push. It's not like he just put his arm out straight. He had his arm. He had the space. Wesley Johnson's ankles just broke.
Pushed off.
But anyway, that was one of the... there was a second time this week where... there was a Chicago Bulls. This one is not as popular. But there's a Chicago Bulls player who dunked on a Nets player this week. I'd encourage you guys to go back and watch that dunk.
I saw something about that.
It was awful. It was just the Bulls player. I don't even know if he's with us anymore. But anyway.
Mighty description. Let's get to our main topics. Couple big things that are happening. Do you want to get right into our main topic, or do we want to kind of lead up to it?
Well, it's up to you, the show host.
I'm asking. It's our show.
It's our show, okay. We can just, I don't know.
Let's just jump right into it. The big thing going on this week, the big topic basically on all sports shows, is the fact that should college athletes be paid or not on the NCAA level, and that some athletes even come out to say the NCAA is corrupt, it all needs to be changed, we got to throw it out the window, throw it in the trash, and start over.
I believe LeBron James came out and said it.
I have some big things about LeBron James saying anything about the NCAA. If you haven't even played a second in the NCAA, I don't want to hear it, okay? At all from him.
Sure.
Stan Van Gundy came out and talked about the one and done rule. The NCAA is a $1 billion nonprofit.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. Billions of dollars, but they are a nonprofit. And you're going to crack down on guys taking $100,000 for a year. I don't see. Granted, that was FBI wiretaps going into Sean Miller, but I don't. We've seen.
Well, for one of them from Michigan State, was it Miles Bridges?
Yep.
He was part of that FBI supposed wiretap. He paid a fine to a charity for $40, $60, and was now cleared of any wrongdoing. So it just adds on to the fact that the NCAA is a joke.
The NCAA is a joke because the fact of the matter is that if you were going to make billions of dollars off the likeness of these students, And
not even that.
It's not even
It's not even just that.
on their own likeness.
It's not even that. I think there's so much more to it. Is that you're asking a lot of these athletes, and yes, I get they're getting a free tuition and a diploma. I don't really count the big stars that come out of the NCAA that go either to football, the NFL or NBA or wherever. Those aren't your guys that are actually getting these crazy degrees that these other athletes maybe a walk-on is working hard to get a degree because they're not going to go to the NBA or to the NFL. So when it comes to the big name players, the ones that are just there, again, you're one and done kind of players, I mean, I think you have to talk about paying these guys because they're just there to bring money into the school and then they're out.
Well, the first thing I would see...
They're not there to get... They say, well, they're getting a free education. No, they're not. Because they're not taking advantage of that.
They're not taking classes.
The free education
Well, the classes part, but they're not taking advantage of that. So to say they're getting free tuition and free to this and free to that, they're really not.
Because the free tuition argument is a straw man argument because if you've ever been a college athlete or if you've ever known college athletes, there is a ton of work that goes into maintaining your ability to be a college athlete and the fact of, you're training, you're practicing, you're on the road for games, you have games all the time, you have film sessions, saying they're there for the education, a lot of these people are taking classes like basket weaving. I don't think you're going to get jobs basket weaving once you get out of college. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might. But
I don't know where you go after college.
I just don't. I'm so sick of this organization that has, Capital One sponsorship, Coca-Cola sponsorship, shoving it in our faces, and then a college player
goes out to dinner with
can't go out to dinner,
right, for $70,
or he'll get suspended because he went out to dinner. But yeah, I can see a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial 17 times in one March Madness basketball game. But these college players who are playing,
pretty funny though.
They're good commercials, but who are playing this game.
The first 17 times you see it.
The 18th time they hit that overtime button, you get sick of it. But it's like, if you're not going to outrightly pay them, let them make money off their likeness. Let them sell their jersey. Let them sell things. Let them do appearances. Let them make money off the fact that they're a good basketball player if you're not going to pay them yourself. But the NCAA needs to set up a structure to pay them. Well,
it's not just them, but that's all athletes. If you have, and that might mean limiting the amount of sports that one school has because you can't afford to pay every athlete on every sport that you have. And it's going to limit... I mean, that's kind of the problem that you see in it. We can't just pay the basketball team money. You got to pay... you got to pay now the girls' team money. You got to pay the football team money. You got to pay the baseball team, the softball team, the diving team, the lacrosse team. You got to pay all these teams, all these players money. But I don't think we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even probably you're probably not even talking thousands of dollars upon thousands for one athlete. We're probably talking like hundreds of dollars. You got to just give them something of a compensation to be able to be an athlete because a lot of these athletes can't work a job or anything like that, which I kind of also find a little bit more ridiculous too when we're talking. I get we're talking Division I, but I've seen athletes that go to these Division I schools. They all have jobs. Yeah, they all have secondary jobs.
Okay, I think what would probably end up being the best scenario would be to just if these players are in a position where they can take what are now deemed illegal benefits, just let them have those and let that be their payment. Let them get sponsorship and have appearances and sell their merchandise and stuff like that. Then you don't have to worry, the schools don't have to worry about paying different athletes. If in college, you can make money, but you have to go out and perform and gain popularity and do stuff like that. And then maybe as another thing, they could make the kids stay 2 or 3 years in college for basketball and stuff.
I've always said at least 2 years. The minimum for college basketball is to be 2 years because then at least because here's what you can do in 2 years. You can get an associate's degree. If you're going to take advantage, if we're going to give them tuition, make them earn it. Make them earn the reason that they're doing it.
That ruins the whole tuition argument anyway for basketball. Is if
we're giving you a full ride, but you're here for you're here for 8 months.
We're giving you a full ride, and then you're not even there long enough to get a degree. That takes away the whole argument of tuition is their salary. You can't make that argument anymore.
Now, what if you said, okay, we're going to give you full tuition. So we're going to give you, Dustin, we're going to give you 4 years to Ohio State University. Here's a check for how much 4 years at Ohio State University costs. Here you go. There's your payment. Here's your now contract or your payment for Ohio State. Now, you only go to college for 1 year. You should be able to keep that money because you earn that money by being recruited by Ohio State.
Yep.
Okay, I've been paid. Hey, I got to play for Ohio State. I brought in sponsors. I got paid my full tuition in a cash settlement if you want to call it that, and then you move on. Wouldn't that make sense?
If you
because
did
then
that,
you have other athletes that say,
"I'm
going to
players make money on their likeness." I would like that idea.
Okay, now you do that, but if they leave college to go to another school, that money has to be paid. That money isn't theirs. If they go not to the NBA or not to the NFL or not to another professional
if they don't go pro.
organization, right? And I mean that because that could be Europe or anything like that, or Canada, whatever these places go. Then yes, that money has to be given back to the university because that's their investment. Their investment is in someone that would say, "Hey, we invested, $200,000 in you. You went on to go play in the NBA. Great, that's fine. That's money worth spent because we can say, hey, look at our NBA All-Star out there who went to Ohio State."
I think that's a great idea. I think a combination of that idea for the tuition.
And you can do that for anyone. You can do that for everyone because you're already giving them the money for a free tuition. So just do that. Just put it into dollars and cents. Give it to them. So that means that softball player that may play 4 years at Ohio State, well, they got all that money to go to Ohio State. They got a full education. Now they're going to go on to run a company or go play for Team USA. But that's where they could go with that. So it's not just
I like
one
the
and
combination of that with the ability to make money off your likeness. You do those two things for me, I'd be happy with the way college athletes, and there's always going to be a level of disparity between, the basketball team that's bringing in millions of dollars and then, the track team that might have some kids that go to the Olympics but are not making that money. And you're never really going to bridge that gap fairly. The idea of just handing out the check and saying, here's your tuition money is a really good start because then, if you have a track athlete who becomes a star and becomes an Olympics, icon symbol while she's in college or he is in college, they can then make money off that likeness, do a couple Powerade bottles, do a couple Wheaties boxes, and then they can still, because they've worked for that. And I like the idea of it. That's the idea that I would go with because I'm really sick of the NCAA throwing amateurism in our face and then seeing coaches make, $8-9 million and then the players make nothing and then the players take $100,000 and they're ineligible. That's not fair at all. That's not okay at all. And I think we're going to get to a place in the NBA where I think they're going to scrap the one and done rule pretty soon. And I think,
They're going to revert back or they're going to add years?
I think they're going to revert back. And I think they're going to also, they're expanding the G League like crazy. The NBA is going to come up with like a feeder system like baseball has using their G League teams. Once every NBA franchise owns a G League team, if you follow this out all the last couple of years, you see that all the NBA franchises are buying up teams, putting teams near them. And we're going to get to the point where, the elite high school players coming out will be getting drafted, and a good amount of them will be getting sent down to the G League, and you'll have a better quality of G League basketball. It'll be just like a AAA or a AA baseball team at that point. Because the NBA realizes that, one, having that money come back into your coffers is great, and two, you could put on a better quality of basketball. Like, and
if you're able to develop players.
If you're able to develop players.
Right now, no one really takes advantage of that, the G League or the G League that they have. That's the best part of baseball and hockey is that you're able to develop these players.
You draft a kid, you can send them down to the AHL. Right. Like, I think an idea that basketball, the mentality is I'm out of college, I'm in the NBA, or I'm on the bench, I'm second off the bench type of thing. And you lose 2 years of development for every player that with the one and done rule because you lose a rookie year of development because you have to develop them.
As opposed to if they're in the G League, they're playing every game. They're playing 35 minutes a night, and they're getting better.
In 2-3 years, you can bring them up to the NBA. They will be NBA ready. But that's what I would suggest. That's the way it kind of gets done.
If they were to expand it, though, the way I would look at it is say you can't have. Then you would have to scrap, in my opinion, the one and done because I don't want an athlete that plays 3 years in the NCAA and then another 2 years in the G League to develop. At that point, he's already 5 years into his career, and that's not good.
I like what they do for baseball in that sense. Is like, you know what? You can go to the draft in baseball when you get out of high school.
College.
Or if you go to college, you have to stay for 3 years in college.
Right.
And I think that's the perfect way to do it.
But you can also get drafted every year.
You can get drafted every year, and that's the same thing with hockey. Like you can get drafted by different teams every year. That's fine.
I bet every NFL player, NCAA football player wishes that was the case, because then you wouldn't have to worry about Cleveland every year.
I've always thought that was
Cleveland.
really cool.
No, I'm good. I'm going to go back to college. You graduated. No, I'm fine. I'm good.
Yeah, I've always thought that was really cool how they do that with hockey, because like you can draft somebody and then you can just let them develop at wherever you're drafting them from for the next 2 to 3 years. Like you go to a UVM hockey game, they always have 2 or 3 players who've already been drafted into the NHL, and it's cool to like go to one of those games and watch those kids play, and then maybe in a couple of years you'll see them playing in the NHL.
Who was the kid from was it BU or BC that played in the Olympics and he just got signed by the Bruins or brought up by the Bruins? I think he was in the Bruins minor league.
Played in the Olympics?
Yeah, it starts with a G, I think. Giano, something like that.
Granado.
The only prospects I know are the prospects that might.
But he was just brought up by the Bruins, so it's like one of those like, okay, he was developing, he got to play for Team USA, he got all these little things. Hey, look what he was able to do on the biggest of stages.
One of BU's best defensemen right now, Cole Maker, is a Colorado Avalanche prospect, drafted 4th overall this year in the draft. Said he's going to commit to the college team, played in the World Juniors. A couple years he'll come up, he'll play.
I would like to see the NBA kind of.
That would be cool,
and I think that would help develop what happens in the NCAA, because it's going to hurt the NCAA.
And that's fine. I'm okay with cutting the NCAA off at the knees.
Right. I think the NBA has clearly the power to be able to do that. They can develop a stronger developmental league than it does. Say, okay, and then they can have that partnership with NCAA to say, no more one and dones, because we want them right away now.
And the thing about the NCAA and the NBA dynamic
helps about the whole athlete paying thing, because then you don't have to.
And then there's a lot of players that in the NBA that come from really rough situations. And instead of having to go to the NCAA, and
that's even worse, the fact that they're not getting paid.
Right, like you can now get these contracts.
And that's why you have so many one and dones, because I can stay in college for 4 years and maybe get to the NCAA championship, or I can leave and go get paid and put my family in a better situation.
No, and like you could get millions of dollars just being drafted where you are. Like the NBA draft scale is so good that some of these kids who are struggling and have to go to college for that 1 year can then just go to the G League, get paid $1 million to develop, and they don't have to worry about this. They don't have to worry about taking money. They don't have to worry about a $40 dinner. Yeah. But I am fully on board with the idea of handing them the tuition check, and then the NBA adopting the idea.
For the years they don't play, but they go pro, they get to keep that money.
I like that idea. It's a start.
I mean, it's also the point too, though. If you were to do something like that, you're not going to get that check the first year, because you're going to get the check for the 3 remaining years and the next remaining change. And then if you go to the pros, you're going to have to pay back that money and that's how it would work. Here's your money up front, but if you stay all 4 years and you also spent this money on extra, we're not giving you double tuition here.
Right.
You're going to have to pay it back eventually. There are going to be stipulations in something like that, but I think that system might actually work. It could work. And that could be anybody. You could say, hey, I don't want that big check. I want to stay here for 4 years. Okay, good. Yeah, your tuition's paid for. Everything, room, board, all that stuff.
It's a better idea than not giving them anything at this point.
Yeah. And I think it's a lot more simple than being like, okay, everyone gets $100. All right, Nick gets $100 this week, and Dustin gets $100 this week. Oh, but then the 2,000 athletes that we have at the school also get $100. Okay, now it's starting to add up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that would be a good kind of compromise for both sides, because I mean, obviously college athletes are going to be sitting there like, I bet you're going to go to the Duke basketball team and tell them you're going to get $100 this week. They're not going to like that. They're probably also not going to like if you give them a check for all the tuition they're going to get. They're going to want a little bit more than that.
Sure.
But I think that's a good medium. It's a good meeting place.
It's definitely in between. You're not getting anything right now, or you are when we don't know when you are, and you're getting everything you want. Okay, here's this compromise. So I definitely think it's going to be small steps. Clearly.
You can't go right.
It's not going to go right into paying every athlete $100,000.
Purists would have millions of strokes if you just went to hundreds. The purists.
The other part too, you got to think of as well. The schools aren't ready to give up that money either. Think of it as a sports, as an owner of a sports team. They're not ready to give up, millions of dollars to athletes that they have put stock into, that don't have contractual obligations. There are so many athletes that leave after their first year to go play somewhere else. So you're going to put all this money into this athlete, and then he's going to say, no, I'm getting a better offer at LSU, so I'm going to go there instead.
No.
You can't do that.
No, you can't.
So I think there's a lot of there's gray area. It's not going to be clearly solved in the next year. I don't think that's going to happen.
But I think we're starting to see a little more momentum because, the FBI scandal is going to change college basketball in the way we know it.
Yeah.
You're getting to the point where you can't shovel this under the rug.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So, looking forward to
What
seeing.
would be interesting on that, though, before we get to anything else, is like maybe let's say you have like a kid who's from Florida going to Florida, and then that same kid getting offers from Duke. Those would be very much different because of the tuition prices. That could potentially cause
Right, so then you're talking about regulating. It's not, here's, because, going to one school, the tuition is going to be a lot different than going to another school.
I would say
But that's not really different from recruiting either.
True.
So, it's a little more money, but it's not different than recruiting saying, like, hey, come win a championship here.
And, a school like Florida could offer the Florida recruit the out-of-state tuition check. Like, that's,
True.
I think, it's up to the school.
Oh, sure, right. You can do something like that, too.
And if that means getting the player, you get to stay home and you get out-of-state tuition money, you have a little extra. So, I think it'd be interesting in adding a layer to recruitment.
Yeah.
Right.
Would be interesting.
Other big topics going on. NFL is proposing rule changes. The catch committee has met this week.
Des caught it.
Catch committee? Oh
Des caught it. That's all I got out of that was that Des caught it.
That Des caught it, and that Cowboy fans are still mad. Get over it. It was 2014. Was that it? How long ago was it?
Cowboys fans still think they've won a
2012?
Super Bowl in the last 20 years.
Is Tony Romo coming back?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's not happening. So they've decided that they're changing what a catch is. They're reviewing it. They said there were leaks that they actually agreed that Des actually did catch the ball. I think we all knew that Des caught the ball, except for the one ref that said he didn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
They're also looking to change the pass interference for on defense as well.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I want thoughts. Let's go.
You want to go first on this one, Nick? Or you want me to
Sure.
It's time to accumulate his thoughts.
I kind of like it because you look at a lot of NFL offenses these days, that's what they play for. Like, if they throw the ball down the field, they're trying to get a pass interference call. They're not trying to put it in a catchable position for anybody.
That was my thoughts on the Patriots' game plan this entire year. That they weren't actually going for the deep ball; they were going for the pass interference.
Exactly.
call.
Like, you had Cooks, and you didn't even really utilize him.
Nope.
But
no, you did. You got tons of yards out of him. You got over 200 yards out of him this season just on pass interference calls.
But I think that would be a good rule. And one thing I did hear they were going to try to do was have like another instant replay system where it was like a clear path foul in the NBA, where like if it's like obvious that they're like trying to do pass interference just to take the 15 yards.
It's such a judgment call.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, and
that's the one thing I want.
I don't think I'd like
all
that.
Things,
but
I want to take all judgment calls out of the NFL because I want to be able to enjoy the game on just black and white. This is what it is, clear and simple. This is this. This is not. This is this. This is not. And it's too much of a judgment call right now.
Yeah, but I think I like the concept of it, where it's like you can't. It can't be trying to draw penalties can't be a part of your offense because that's just not entertaining football.
It gets really frustrating when you have quarterbacks that know that they can have the wide receiver just run a little deep and then they can draw. They overthrow a ball or they underthrow a ball, and the receiver tries
manipulating the system.
And it's manipulating the system.
They know the defender can't touch you, so they're going to put that defender in a spot that they can't defend themselves.
And it's time to change that system back a little bit because I remember the reason why pass interference got so. Why they nerfed the quarterbacks on it was because every time somebody lined up against Ty Law, they would just get mugged, like just straight up mugged.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And they had to change
their third Super Bowl win.
Yeah, no, like this, it was like literally the rule was changed because of Ty Law.
Yeah, but I miss the days of like Ty Law, Rodney Harrison being able to just knock the crap out of somebody.
I miss the days where
Ray Lewis even did it too.
Quarterbacks were allowed to actually play defense on the wide receiver. Now you touch him. Now you touch him.
No, I'm with you too. I want it to go both ways here. I don't want it to be like, I want the offense to put up points because I could care less. I get that the NFL's thought at some point in the last 15, 20 years that, offense is what's going to bring fans in. So we have to do that. No, a good team's going to bring fans in.
But I think one of the fun things,
good back and forth is what's going to bring fans in.
And I see this from my receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. You watch him he'll mug the guy. I love the idea when Hopkins draws a pass interference because he draws the most offensive pass interferences of anybody. I love the idea of a good wide receiver and a good cornerback just going at each other for position. Yeah. And I think, the pendulum was back here with Ty Law. It swung way. We can find a happy medium where, look, you do have to let the receiver. You can't knock him down before the ball is over there. But you can play him a little tougher now. Like, you can play him a little more rough.
Yeah. I think when it ever comes down to like a jump ball type of situation, I just want to see him fight.
Yeah, I want
to see claws come out. I think that'd be so much better than to see them just jump up and then the defender bumps them. Okay, now it's a pass interference. They're both going for the ball.
Yeah, as long as that receiver is in an area where they can catch a ball that's thrown right at them, as long as that cornerback hasn't got them tackled on the ground before.
Similar to the clear path foul. If they're route running and they're getting knocked over, I think that's a little different of pass interference. But I also want to change the penalty of pass interference. If we're not going to change the actual definition of it and let these cornerbacks have a say, the penalty needs to change.
The penalty
now, I've seen saying that you should make it 15 yards. First 15 yards, automatic first down, similar to what it is in college. But I think because we're in the professionals, in the NFL, I think it has to be kind of a happy medium between the two. No, it's not going to be a spot foul, but I think 15 yards is nothing. I feel like that's any defender. If any defender's getting beat on the outside and they just knock the receiver over, it's only 15 yards. Where it could have been a touchdown.
Yeah, that's what they were talking about the clear path foul with, and that could make it interesting. But like you said, it's a judgment call then. So I can see.
No, I'm saying
I'm saying 15 yards or half the distance to the goal, depending on how egregious it is. Like if you're on the 20 and you're on the 50 and he tackles you on the 50, you get half the distance.
I would almost do half the distance of when the penalty is called. So spot foul half that distance. That's what I would do. Because you have many plays that are 40, 50 yards. It's not. There's no guarantee that receiver is actually going to catch it at 50 yards.
Yeah, but if the guy tackles you at the 80-yard line,
okay, so now right. So now, he hits them at at 50 yards past the line of scrimmage. It's a 25-yard penalty, first down. I think that makes more sense for pass interference because there's no guarantee that receiver is going to catch the ball in the first place. We've seen this all the time, and especially when we don't know what a catch is anyway.
Well, now we'll know what a catch is, which is nice.
Well, we might know what a catch is.
I think we have an idea.
But I think the two rules go hand in hand because there's just so many opportunities where there's a pass interference call and someone trying to make a ridiculous catch.
What if they just got rid of pass interference altogether? And if there was, not get rid of pass interference altogether.
Stab guys on the
Dustin, I swear to God, I was on that same path. Just get rid of pass interference. Okay. Shank your guy going up the
Just go for his knees at the line of scrimmage.
And just go.
They get rid of gaining yardage, and they just let you replay the down. There's no yardage.
That'd be so frustrating as a fan.
It would be. As a fan, it would be frustrating, and at the same time, you'd also have to put the time back on the clock.
That's true.
I think because then you're just penalizing the offense.
And we know how long it takes the referees to put time back on the clock.
Pass interference. And then
the refs have to go in and be like, all right, how much time is on the clock?
And you're like, oh my God, come on, hurry up. Let's get this game going.
At least it's still 1st and 10.
I want shorter football games. I do not need an extra hour added to an hour and a half. I'm already slogging through the NFL.
Listen, you're going to love an extra hour of football this year with Deshaun Watson. So don't even kid yourself.
I mean, if it's...
You're going to want to watch as much of him as possible.
Oh, my defense was awful. I might have to watch a bunch of overtime games the way the defense on the Texans...
Well, there you go, an extra hour of football.
No, I like the idea of you suggest half of the spot. That's a great idea in my opinion. And
there's so many times this year that the Patriots have drawn pass interference calls, and I'm going, this isn't right. As a Patriots fan, I'm saying that. I shouldn't be saying he earned that one. I'm looking there's no way he would have got 60 yards here.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And the same thing happened in the Super Bowl too. I mean, the Super Bowl,
watch any games as a neutral fan, you see it's that's not pass.
That's a neutral. Well, yeah, as a neutral fan, you're saying that, or you're saying, oh, they got away with another one. But as an actual fan of the team that I'm watching it happen to, I'm even saying it too. This seems kind of crazy. We're getting this much yardage over what was it, Bowie and or not for the Jaguars? Where it's I don't think he touched him or Ramsey or anything like that. Got away with that one. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the changes. My question to you guys also is there anything else in the NFL that needs to change? Is there any other rules that are, other than because what was a catch, what wasn't a catch? We had so many incidences this year, fumbles in the end zone or what is an end zone type of thing, and pass interference. Is there anything else in the NFL that needs to really come to light here?
I would like to see expanded rosters because a lot of play, I think you could add another 10 roster spots. I think
10.
I think 10. Just because of the amount of injuries that have gone on in the NFL the last couple of years, I think adding and just saying, instead of what they carry 56, like carry 60, you can carry 63 now on your roster, and then I just think I would like to add to. That's the only other thing I could think of as far as NFL rule changes I would like to see.
What I would do is I would get rid of that stupid touchback when you fumble in the end zone rule. I think that's terrible. That's just completely awful. And
has anyone benefited? Clearly, teams have benefited.
Yeah.
But is there? I'd love to know what the reason was to create that rule in the first place.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't make any sense to me because, was it the Jets player that did it against the Patriots where he was basically transferring the ball from one hand to the next? So the ball was in midair while he was crossing the end zone. So now that's a touchback. It doesn't make that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
For me, I would actually like to see a salary adjustment for backup quarterbacks. I think if that's where the NFL clearly is right now with the direction of the league is they want to protect the quarterback. I think you have to do a salary adjustment for those backup quarterbacks where it's not a luxury penalty hit for that team because then that allows you to pay a better quarterback extra money to be a backup so that when a Tom Brady goes down, Brian Hoyer's not coming in. You do have a Jimmy Garoppolo that could come in, or so, if they're willing to take that money. You know what I mean? You have a backup quarterback with actual skill to be able to get paid a little more and stay with a golf ball club and yet not get paid as much. Because I think we've all seen throughout the years that all other positions are clearly replaceable throughout the year. You're able to find that next man up mentality. But a quarterback is someone it's really difficult to do that for.
I like the idea of that, and I think you could work that in with the expanded rosters a little more that way, A lot of the times...
And I'm not saying much. I mean, make it a $5 million exemption cap or something.
Well, I think one of the things that, we see, and there's such a drop-off between quarterback one and quarterback two because there's not a lot of chances to develop a quarterback in the league because a lot of the time, with only being able to carry 53 guys on your roster, you can't afford to carry that third or fourth quarterback in a lot of cases. And I think...
Fourth, never. Third is a stretch as well.
And I think by expanding your roster a little more and then making it so you could carry 63 and then adding an exception like that, now you can afford to get a good backup quarterback. And now you can also afford to carry a guy you're developing to be either your next starter or a better backup quarterback in that extra roster spot because now you don't have to worry about him, we need a fourth linebacker for special teams.
It's scarce to see this in the NFL, and it's funny that we've seen it particularly, just now, but we haven't really seen it for years. You have the Patriots that are very lucky for 3 years to have someone like Garoppolo as a backup that is clearly proven that he can be a starter. The Nick Foles situation with Carson Wentz going down, guy wins you a Super Bowl. You've seen that too, and then the same thing for the Vikings as well.
Yeah.
You have all your money. All your eggs in the basket for Teddy Bridgewater. He goes down. You bring in Sam Bradford, who does really pretty well for you for half of the season.
Then he goes down.
Next year, you bring in Case Keenum, and he takes you to the NFC Championship game. So I think it's weird that we've seen it on a lot of occasions recently, but we haven't really seen it in years past, where these teams have a solid backup quarterback or someone that can really step up.
Yeah, and I think that really would improve the play too because I think with that rule, I don't think we'd see guys like Tom Savage, Charlie Whitehurst. In the future, Josh Allen play out there and just chucking the ball around, throwing interceptions. Nathan Peterman, another guy.
And Nathan Peterman.
Although Nathan Peterman
that was a little different.
So. Stick taps to Nathan Peterman.
Geno Smith, right?
By the way, Geno Smith's a flat earther, if you haven't figured.
Really?
He tweeted it out, So he's an idiot. We've confirmed that. Nathan Peterman, man. Pour one out.
Is there more about Geno Smith there?
No, there's not more. I just wanted.
You had something else to say.
I just need to take a jab at Geno Smith. I like taking jabs at Geno Smith.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the draft. We have all these quarterbacks. Do you guys have any idea of possible landing spots for some of these quarterbacks? Because Minnesota just seems like a complete hodgepodge, mess. They don't know what they're going to do. I'm surprised they haven't committed to someone. And I know they can't really come out and say it because free agency hasn't started yet. But it always seems like that's just a complete question mark.
I think Minnesota's going, so I think 3 teams are going all in on the Kirk Cousins deal, and wherever Kirk Cousins lands.
The 3 that I've heard that you hear rumors about is Cleveland, the New York Jets, and the Minnesota Vikings.
But I heard the Broncos were thinking about
Broncos.
him.
I didn't hear Broncos.
I heard Broncos. The Jets are going to pay. The Jets are going to just back up a truck of cash to Kirk Cousins' front door.
They have $80 million in cap space
They
this
might.
year.
There was a rumor that they would pay him
crazy.
$55 million this year just at the front. Like, woo! Like, that's a lot of money to throw a football. I think it's hard to speculate where everything is going to land right now because Kirk Cousins is the first bomb to drop. Wherever Kirk Cousins goes, you will see that fall out. Because after Kirk Cousins, A.J. McCarron's a free agent. There's some teams that like A.J. McCarron. Then you have Sam Bradford, who you know what you're getting with him, like we talked about at the top of the show. Then you have Teddy Bridgewater, who can still be a franchise quarterback.
Is he a victim of circumstance or what?
I think he's a victim of circumstance because, I think Teddy Bridgewater should go to a team like the Broncos that have a good team around it. Get a prove-it deal. Get a $10 million prove-it deal, ball out in that year, and then look at
wherever he goes, it's probably going to be a one-year deal, I think.
And
I think it'll be more incentive than anything, than base salary.
I think maybe a 2-year deal, that second year being
Which
more
is a bummer
incentive.
for him because from what we saw at the beginning of his career, we really liked.
I think for what we saw at the beginning of his career, he's getting at least $10 million. Like, I don't think that'll be incentive. He's getting, at least at the lowest level, he's getting that much because he's you got tape on him, you know what he can be. But I think it's going to really depend on what happens with Kirk, because if Kirk pulls one out of nowhere and goes to the Browns, well, then that's one of the most quarterback needing teams ever, completely off the market. And the Browns are one of those teams where
that changes the draft too.
Right.
They have the cap room where the Browns.
Well, the Browns
Jets
are able to pull off a quarterback in free agency. Okay, now you have number 1 and number 4, and you don't need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing.
Let's put that. That might be the smartest thing to do. So it's likely not going to happen for Cleveland.
With the Browns and the Jets, both the Browns and the Jets have a ton of cap room. So these guys can afford to drive up the prices on quarterbacks where teams like the Broncos, teams like the Cardinals or quarterback needy teams can't really set the market higher because they're the kind of cap room. But the Jets and the Browns, they can get in a bidding war for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
They can go up to $60 million for the guy.
So if you're Kirk Cousins, I mean, do we joke about Cleveland? I get it, but is somewhere like Cleveland a better spot for you than the Jets?
Oh yeah,
The Jets have a better current
the Cleveland Browns are very close
roster
to
than
the Cleveland Browns. You saw it this year. Yes, they've gone 2-30, 30 in the last 2 years, but that was a competitive 2-30, and with 2 picks in the top 5.
Competitive 2-30.
Competitive 2-30. I will say that competitive 2-30. But Cleveland,
a few games in
Cleveland
that 30
has
losses.
stocked up on so much young
I thought
talent.
it was 1-33, 1-31.
131. Thank you. 131.
Competitive 1-31.
But Cleveland has.
Don't give them any credit.
Cleveland is stocking up on talent left and right. Where
I feel like Cleveland is definitely in a better spot because if you can land a franchise quarterback in free agency, you have the 1-4 pick.
Yeah.
Is Josh Gordon still playing for them?
Josh Gordon will be back.
Okay, so that's a huge draw for a quarterback right
yeah.
now. So if you have that, now you have 1-4. Go out and get that crazy defender. Go out and then get that offensive player.
Well, and Myles Garrett played really well last year too for the Browns.
When he wasn't hurt, right?
When he wasn't hurt, and the Browns' defense, their run defense was decent. Their pass defense was atrocious, but their run defense was decent. Like they're building that team is. They obviously went 0-16, so you can't say that they're good, but they're closer than a norm. They're not like
I think we said all year that this was the best 0-16 team we've seen. They actually had chances the whole year, not the whole year, but in some instance throughout the year where they could have won.
They were in games.
We weren't real, even when they were 0-8 or 0-9. We're still going. I feel like they still could win this
It's
game.
not like they were getting housed 49-0 every time they went out there. They were losing games by 3. They were losing games by 4. And with a guy like Kirk Cousins under center, those are games you win in Cleveland. I think Cleveland would be a really good place. I think the quarterback that gets brought into Cleveland is going to go, oh, wow, this is actually better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it's going to be interesting to see because, you got a lot of quarterback needy teams. You got the Cardinals the window is closing for the Cardinals, but it is what it is.
Is there?
Arians out,
do you think there's still a sense of pride for quarterbacks in this league to go to Cleveland and bring them like a winning season, or is Cleveland really the joke of the NFL and that's where my career is going to die?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, that's why I bring it up because I really don't. I don't know how to feel about that because players don't openly talk about Cleveland.
But that first quarterback to go and win a playoff game in Cleveland, they're building a statue. And I think for
like
some
Rocky-esque.
I think for some guys you have to look at that and be like, I could go into that city and I could
Well, that's
turn
what I
the
mean,
city
right.
around. Like I could do, what LeBron kind of did to Cleveland. He put Cleveland basketball on the map. Like you could go in
Taking
there.
it right back off.
He's taking it right back. You could go in and be like, hey.
Let's bring it back to Franklin County real quick. We're going to talk about with our home field advantage. Just a quick playoff plug for Northwest Access TV. We're taking games live all over the county. We're going to be live tonight in Enosburg for a non-playoff game, but it is a Franklin County, a little bit of a rivalry, MVU and Enosburg going at it tonight in boys basketball. Tomorrow we'll be live for the BFA girls hockey game against, I'm going to forget, Middlebury, I believe it is. And then on Saturday we'll be live for the BFA boys game against South Burlington. And then after this weekend and things start to settle down, the dust settles and teams are either moving on or eliminated, we'll be in touch with everyone else to let them know where our next games are going to be. Because next week we could be live almost every day, hopefully not including town meeting day, which is a pretty big day for
that would
access. I think we have 7 teams in Franklin County right now that are in the playoffs, and that includes, by the way, the Richford boys basketball team that went down to, I can't remember what team it was.
Green Mountain, wasn't it?
Was it Green Mountain?
That was the girls that went down and pulled off the upset.
Was it the girls? Okay, so someone went down and pulled off a crazy
basketball
upset.
Hasn't started yet for playoffs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so it was the girls team.
And
so
the
girls team
MVU Thunderbirds went down to Brattleboro last night and housed
6-0 against
Brattleboro in a hockey game.
You say house? It was a 9 versus 8. It's just unfortunate circumstance that you had to travel across the entire state to play that game. But it makes that ride back a whole lot sweeter.
Oh, yeah.
Now they get to go all the way back down to Woodstock. So they're putting in the miles.
They should just stay down there for a couple days.
Yeah.
So
Dustin, again, will be also on the mics Friday and Saturday night. Nick will be on the mics tonight for Enosburg and MVU.
So I got to see South Burlington. I got called the day before to do PA for South Burlington as they faced Rutland. They played really good.
The girls game.
Boys game. That's how I knew that they were playing BFA. And I was able to text Bryce that because I was at that game for South Burlington.
Right.
It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be more interesting than a 17-1-1 team going against a 5-13-2 team would seem, because the last time South Burlington BFA played, BFA won 3-1 in South Burlington. It was a really, really tight game that was yet to be decided. So South Burlington coming off a win against Rutland where they just beat up on them. They had 5 or 6 goals. They just kept scoring, and this team's got a little momentum coming in now.
It looks like they're hitting their stride for sure.
They're hitting their stride, and BFA, Toby will have his boys ready to play, but this could be a game where it might be a little rocky for the Pop Whites.
There have been a lot of times where BFA scored within the first 30 seconds of the game. I'm going to put the over-under at 45 for this game.
I'm going to say it's 5 minutes before BFA scores. I think they get a power play after 5 minutes because there is some discipline with South Burlington.
I'm just taking a flyer. I don't really know either way.
But the real big game is going to be if BFA advances past this weekend and
play Spalding.
Spalding, the only team to come into BFA and beat them. Yep. Would get a chance to come into BFA and beat them again.
And I believe, though, BFA did win against Spalding.
BFA blew them out both times.
The other times.
Like 2 days later after.
Yeah. But they played a weird sequence of like 3 games in like 6 days or 7 days or something like that.
Because of the snow days. But that'll be an interesting game. The Bob Whites have a pretty decent road to the playoffs. I think they can get through South Burlington rather easy.
Yeah.
But it's going to be that Spalding game that's going to be big. But then again, Burn could pull off the upset, and I think they would just crush Burn.
Which they've had trouble with this year as well.
They had trouble with Burn?
I think they've gone back. They went back and forth with Burn. I think they won all.
Yeah, they won like 6-1 the other day against
Right, but before that, I think they only won like 2-1 or something like that. It was a weird. Again, they played Burton again like a lot of times within like.
So it's weird. For me, it's weird seeing like U32.
And those are your top teams of the Division I anyway.
Burton all in D1 because those are all the teams that I played. In high school. We beat those teams, and now they're in D1.
And of course, the Comets have Middlebury on Friday. Should be a decent win. I don't think Middlebury is going to give them a challenge. The game's going to be whether they face Rutland. Rutland has given them a challenge. They had that streak where they lost to Rutland. That'll be an interesting game.
I think the biggest, one of the bigger matchups for us anyway, for Franklin County. Yeah, because we're not even into boys basketball yet, so we have 3 or 4 teams possible that can do that, or 2 or 3. So is the girls, BFA girls, they play CVU coming up in their next game on Friday night. So their road to the to the finals is not an easy
Is
one.
over.
Did CVU not get the top seed in girls
They did
basketball?
CVU was number 2 at 18-2.
think
St.
St.
John's
John's
Bury
was
They
number
lost
2.
Is St.
twice this
Johnsbury
year.
in the same bracket as them, right?
St. John's Bury is number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they're in some bracket. So they won't have to face St. Johnsbury until the finals if they get there.
How long has it been since CVU has not been the number 1 seed in girls basketball?
They were for 4 years, so as far as I know.
I
They haven't lost a game.
I think BFA is going to need a miracle if they're going to try to go into CVU and win that game. You know, they had them close at halftime a couple weeks ago. Up in here, it was like a tie game at halftime. So it's just that CVU has that third quarter offense that will crush your dreams and hopes.
And Nick's over at Enosburg tonight for MVU.
Yep, that'll be fun. I mean, both those teams have not really had the season they were hoping for, but it's also a rebuilding year for both teams. After
Right, clearly.
the years that they had last year, they both lost everyone that started for them on their playoff teams from last year. But, I mean, you look at the game at Missisquoi a couple weeks ago, I mean, that was a buzzer beater that MVU won on. So, and the rivalry is as intense as ever from what I hear. So it should be a very
I'm excited to see, though, a little bit of a
game.
rivalry between those two teams because it
It's
always
always
seems like
been
it's been
kinda
BFA,
there.
MVU the
Yeah.
last 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's another high school team in Franklin County that's kind of getting into
Yeah.
that mix. Well,
I
and
want to see
mean,
parents chucking fists.
and kudos to the kudos to the teams
see
as
it.
well because not many teams actually take advantage of that. You have other high schools in your county. You might as well
Yeah.
play them. And I thought that was really big of BFA to be able to do that too this year, to have a little bit of fun with Enosburg and play them a couple times.
Yeah, that was cool, and especially since Enosburg's up in the lake finally now after
Right,
beating
exactly.
up on teams in the Mountain Division for
Right.
the last 10 years.
All right, so again, here's with a few minutes left here, my favorite segment of the week is Dustin Tanner. It's Just Trash with Dustin Tanner. He tells us in the last week of sports who was just trash.
I struggled to find somebody this week
Oh my God, stop.
until Mets baseball came back. Mets
It
baseball.
better not be who I think it is.
Meet the Mets. It's not Tim Tebow. He's part of the reason why. My just trash of this week is the New York Mets training staff, because after a record-setting year of injuries last year, you would think, hey, maybe we should reevaluate our training staff. Nope, not the Mets. The Mets already had, 8 or 9 players hurt for the second day of spring training.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to the season yet, and we have players with sore Achilles. We have players with sore ankles. We have players stepping over sprinklers and hurt.
And that's
ankles.
more on the grounds crew, in my opinion.
It's the grounds crew, but
And
the
Tim
New
Tebow
York
for
Mets.
not watching where you're walking.
I'm gonna draw on them a couple of times this year for our Just Trash segment, but there are lovable losers, and it looks like they're right on track to just play some great Mets baseball where everybody dies in New York City.
Yeah,
this
it looked like at the beginning, or a couple years ago, the Mets were gonna be a decent team. It was gonna be the Mets and the Cubs in the NL for the next.
They just Mets
5, 10
that
years.
right up.
And the Mets have just fallen off the edge of the earth.
If the Mets can mess it up, they will mess it up.
Yeah.
So that my Just Trash of this week, in a week of great sports performances, is the New York Mets training staff.
Congrats, New York Mets training.
Congratulations, New York Mets. You've won.
We need
something.
a plaque that says you just put the New York Mets training staff.
New
And
York
everyone
Mets.
else before that was Andy Reid was one day.
We should go back and we should just have the Just Trashes.
Right.
Gotta keep track.
Cute little story out of Sox camp, which I thought was really cool. They played the Cardinals, I believe it was last night. The coach for the Cardinals is, I'm going to get his last name wrong, Mike Matheny. The Red Sox in their farm system have his son, Tate. And they called him up this year for spring training. They had him deliver the lineup card yesterday to his father at home plate, which was really cool. And just to add another layer to it, Tate's son, who is Mike's grandson, was in the stands too watching the game. So that was really cool, the little 3 generations of the Matheny tribe there for spring training. It just goes to show that in baseball for spring training, that it's really about respect. Baseball is definitely more of a respect sport, I feel, like another
fun
game.
game.
It is fun. I know a lot of people kind of give it crap because it's quite boring, it's quite long, but
I'm
there's
excited
things
for
that happen
baseball
in
this
between
year.
baseball, in between the games that actually are fun.
Baseball is only boring if you go into thinking it's going to be boring.
And I think
There's a lot
it
to
also
watch.
serves for a different topic, too, later on, is that Alex Cora even thought to have this idea. Is the mentality in that clubhouse changing
Smart guy.
drastically?
I'm just ready for the
because
ballpark
of
cards to come back. I'm
Alex
just ready
Cora.
for the bullpen cards. I want it.
Yeah.
I want bullpen cards.
I'm
That's
ready
what I
for the
want.
Sox Yankees rivalry this year.
Ready for
back on.
Giancarlo
I don't
Stanton
think
only
it's
hit
back
20
on as
home
people
runs.
think it is,
I
but
think
maybe we'll
it's
talk
back
about that
on.
next week. So that's going to do it for us on Huddle Up. Dustin and Nick here with Paul. You can catch Nick and Dustin on Northwest Access TV for sports, live sports this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And Dustin, I'm sure, will be on the mics next week for some more playoff
You aren't
games.
getting away from my voice anytime soon.
Anytime soon, leading up hopefully to the Gut and Patrick Gym. That's going to do it for us on Huddle Up. We'll see you next week with another edition.